Welcome everyone once again to the Spanish Breakfast Show live on YouTooSpain. I'm Skatz, and every week I'm finding the answers to lots of your questions about how to move to Spain, how to fit in, and what it's like to live there by speaking to experts and expats. And of course, you can ask your questions right now live in the chat box, or if you're not watching live, in the comments below. Either way, we'll get you some answers. And once again, my lovely wife Liz is looking in and will be on the chat under the name U2 Aromatherapy. So if I miss any questions, she'll pass them on to me. Give her a wave, everyone. Hello, Liz. Oh, she might be under U2 Yoga today. Anyway, so far we've talked about the non-lucrative visa quite a lot, but today we're talking about what happens if you're a non-EU spouse of an EU citizen or a passport holder or resident. Do you need to apply for a visa to get into Spain, and what documents do you need for residency, etc.? What is the process? Well, I'm no expert, but I know a man who is. So without further ado, let's go live to Malaga and welcome Chris from Upsticks. Welcome. Good morning, Chris.
Morning. How are we doing?
Great, great. And thanks for coming on the show again. And thank you for your valuable time. You've been really busy recently, haven't you?
Yes, it's been really busy, crazy busy. It's a little bit like our transition period now, because obviously during the transition period, it was quite, say, stable in terms of what we have to do. But now this year, there's a lot of changes with things which are involved. Couple that with coronavirus, it's a busy time.
Yeah. There's all this hope of people being released from lockdown, and there's all these new connotations we were talking about of different people with different EU citizenship or not.
Yes, there's certainly, on a positive note for Spain, there's a lot of people still with a lot of intent to come and working out how the best way to do it is. And obviously there's been a bit of a backlog from last year where people maybe have been here, have not been able to legalise the situation and can still do within Spain. That's why I said it's probably a good idea to talk about that today. And they're just catching up, so we are seeing the slightly the withdrawal agreement residencies for Brits starting to tail off now, evidently. And although the immigration authorities are still way behind, when I say behind, I think they're bogged down with applications. But yeah, so it's still a busy period, at the moment.
Yeah. So let's get straight on to the big question for today's show. And this one's especially relevant to me and Liz because fingers crossed, I will eventually become an Irish citizen and then an EU passport holder. But Liz, of course, is still a UK citizen. So first of all, will she need a visa to get over the border and stay for longer than 90 days?
Yeah, so we'll talk about residency. She can apply. So when she's actually in Spain, so let's talk about, I said we were commenting earlier, weren't we, about actually how to get into the country. But the biggest thing is with an EU citizen who has right to an EU residency card. So one of the little green ones that I know you've got copies of there. A non-EU citizen who's married or married to that person can get residency off the back of their status, and that can be done from within Spain. So I was saying the steps are actually are quite complicated in terms of what you have to do for the non-EU citizen, but the EU citizen actually gains their residency in a day, so it's the same as how it used to be for Brits, basically. So supposing you were here, you managed to get over the border, and you've got an Irish passport, you're with your non-EU spouse, within the 90-day period, that EU citizen can go to the police station and get their residency. Evidently, that's proving that you've got enough means to support yourself, and that you've got enough means you've got healthcare, as we've discussed before. The healthcare is very, very similar. It's exactly the same as we've discussed with the visas. You've got three forms. Well, it's slightly different for EU residencies, EU applicants, evidently, because EU applicants can actually get a job and get residency off the back of that job, whereas a non-EU citizen can't. They could use that for the residency application. Private healthcare, or if they're retired, maybe exportable healthcare. And once that EU citizen has got their residency, then you can apply to the immigration authority. So this is actually at the same authority that is dealing with the withdrawal agreement applications and anybody who's third country national. It's not done in the same place as EU citizens do it, which is a extranjería. It's done at the immigration authorities. You can actually apply for a residency card for that non-EU citizen off the back of the EU status.
Okay.
So,
the
application.
Just going back to the visa question, how you get over the border, we did find out if you've got a UK passport, then you're part of the agreement that you can actually get into Spain without getting a visa. There's no problem actually at the border. So I just want to make that clear for everyone. And if you're from outside, I think you might need a visa if you're from certain countries in the world just to get over the border. But,
right.
But I think applying for residency, once you're there, it's just like any non-EU citizen, because there are kind of 63 countries where you don't need a visa to get in to go on holiday, but the rest of the world you do.
Right. Okay, that's good.
There's a list called Annex 2 or Annex 3 or something. It's on one of the Europa.eu websites. That's a European Union website. So anyway, I thought I'd tell everybody that.
Yeah, we could have a good list to put on the feed of the video.
Yeah. Yes, I'll put a link to that. I'll just have a look. I've got a question from Barry Stewart. I think he needs one of our previous videos. So please advise on the financial visa requirements, firstly for the first year, then the following 4 years. I think you're talking about the non-lucrative visa there, Barry. Is that right? Just let us know about that while we carry on with this process we're talking about.
That was, it's a good question. In terms of the, obviously we've spoken about non-lucrative visas, so we've got a video on that, so you can have a look at that. But for the EU, so non-EU riding off the back of an EU spouse, it's actually the financial requirements are within the EU category that we spoke. Which actually, what we could do is have a chat about that as well in one of the videos in the future, like how they work out and stuff. So it's a lot less than a visa requirement. So, for example, an EU national has to prove 100% e-prem. E-prem is system that we spoke about before, where through a visa, non-lucrative visa, it's 4 times that. So it would be either for the term of your residency 5 years, you'd have to prove 5 times e-prem. If it's a fixed deposit in the bank account, if it's an income, you have to prove you're earning. I think it's around €700 a month minimum. I'm talking just for the EU citizen now. And you can also use various mediums of savings and stuff like that. Now, when you come to the point where you're then registering your non-EU partner as a resident, you have to prove that you can either support them or they can support themselves. They doesn't have to be you supporting them, even they're just adopting your status because you've got a marriage in place, you would say. But you have to prove that you've got sufficient income for you both, and obviously the healthcare as we spoke about before. There's other requirements as well. So evidently you have to prove that you have got that connection. So you need a marriage certificate with a translation of that certificate. If that marriage certificate is from the UK, it would have to have an apostille Hague approval on it. And
a stamp, an official stamp.
An official stamp. It's the Hague apostille stamp. It wasn't within Europe. Within Europe, you don't have to have that. They signed an agreement in 2018, I think it is, that they'll recognise each other's documents. But now, say for example, it's a UK marriage certificate, then you do have to have it because now the UK is outside the EU. So, and there's a series of.
How do you get that apostille? So, for example, if you live in Ireland like we do, and we've got a UK.
You can actually do it via post. You can do it by the post. In fact, what I'll do is I will send you a link to an article that we wrote that we include in our emails when we're advising people. We'll just read this first, and then you can actually do it through the government by post. So it's a lot easier than it used to be. I can tell you, we had to do it when we got married here, myself and my wife, and it became that hard doing it with a consulate. We actually flew to London, had a weekend, and went to Whitehall and did it in a day. So obviously that's not option for you at the moment, but you can now do it via post. You send it off, pay the money, and it comes back to you.
Okay.
So that's that. And just on that note, one thing that we have come across, which has been a bit strange regarding the marriage certificates, is that immigration are generally accepting marriage certificates in the form that they were issued. So if you were married in 2016, then that's fine as long as it's carrying the translation and the apostille. That's immigration for authorities. The extranjerias, the foreign offices who deal with the EU applications, have actually been asking for marriage certificates to be dated within the last 3 months, i.e. a recent duplicate of that marriage certificate. So it's depending on each case, and when we're looking at things, we're like, you're going to have to you can do this via post with the UK. We're asking people to get updated copies of marriage certificates so they're accepted, depending on the situation.
Brilliant. So let's go into the process. Well, I've got Maria Goggin asking the question. They're not talking residency here, just visiting, but how does my UK husband prove he's permitted to be here beyond 90 days? Does he need documentation? She's Irish and they live in the UK in the summer. So I think it's a similar situation to us, really, isn't it? It's what's the process then after arriving? What would we have to do first as an EU citizen with a non-EU partner?
So EU citizen first goes to what they call a extranjería, the foreign office, gets their residency. You both have to be on a padrón together. So a padrón certificate is the certificate when you sign on the town hall, and it's basically like a certificate that proves where you live and that you're living together, and living together in Spain, evidently. And then after that, there's a trip to immigration, or you can evidently pay someone to do it for you online, to submit the documentation for the non-EU citizens at residency, which would mean you prove in the income, the healthcare, etc., etc. Now, the difference between an EU citizen is that they will get their residency straight away, but a non-EU person, their application goes into immigration, that gets assessed, and then they'll either come back with there's 3 responses. There's either a denied, we've denied your application for whatever reason. There could be 101 reasons why they deny an application, maybe not suitable healthcare, not enough money, or they've discovered that you don't qualify under some way, in which case you've got 30 days to respond to that with an appeal. You might get a letter, which is called a requirements letter, which requires more information. They might want to say, okay, we had one case where a couple had been recently married and recently signed on in Spain on the padrón, and they wanted to see longevity of the relationship. Basically, so they were just a bit more proof they were living together. It turns out they had a joint bank account for many years before, and they lived together in a different country. It wasn't UK, it was a different country. So we were able to prove a little bit more, and then 3 days later we got what they call a successful resolution, which is the third thing that could happen. You just get this document called a resolution, and with that document you have to go back to the extranjería where the EU citizen got their residency and ratify the card. If you go and give fingerprints and stuff, and then 2 months later your card arrives. So as you can see, the process for a non-EU citizen is slightly longer than someone who's from the EU. But you fall into that. Once you've got that approval, you're the same as anybody who's got any visa approval. You have to go give your fingerprints, etc., etc.
Okay, I'll just answer Maria Goggin. She's come back. She said, no, we don't want residency. She's talking about her UK husband visiting for more than 90 days. An easy answer to that one. You can't do it. You can 90 days in every 180-day rolling period, I think, is the rule. So you have to go back to the UK for 90 days and then come back.
Yeah, and in theory, don't forget that EU citizens are supposed to register after if they intend to spend more than 90 days as well. It's always been 90 days. It's not because people have been maybe flying under the radar, or there's there's obviously people who have who'd like to spend extended periods in winter here, maybe 5 months, and go back to the UK during the summer. But in theory, all EU citizens after 90 days have to register as residency.
Okay. Maria says yes, he can. I'm not sure what she was answering there. Oh yeah, Barry saying thanks for the advice. You look at the previous video. Yes, it's all on the previous video. There are actually 4 videos, Barry, all about the non-lucrative visa. There's a playlist on YouTooSpain. You can go through all 4 if you want. If you want to know about the money, there's one called Money and the Non-Lucrative Visa. Somebody says the 90 to 180 Schengen does not apply to EU or TXN spouse of EU. Is that true?
No. If you register, so EU, if the 90, so the Schengen, so within the EU, evidently you've got freedom of movement, and but if you intend to spend more than 90 days, then you have to register as a resident. If you're non-EU and you enter Spain with your EU spouse, then if you don't start the residency process off the back of their residency, then you would have to leave after the 90 days.
Okay. So that's the Spanish law. That's not the Schengen law. That's what I think. That's what he's referring to.
Oh, right.
It's not the Schengen rule. It's Spanish law. Yeah. So you do have to. You do have to get some kind of residency if you're over the 90 days.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is obviously the residency takes a while to come through. So as long as you've got that documentation to prove it's going through, then you're fine to stay. Until the point that it does get approved.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Buduri. That's the name of this person. Yes. FOM and Schengen are 2 different rules. Quite, that's just what we've said. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking about. Oh yeah, Maria says you're supposed to register but not finalise the process, but no one knows how to do this.
There's not. If you're an EU resident, you either register or you don't.
Yeah.
That's it. So there's no. I don't know, to be honest. Register and not finalise the process. I don't know. It's
it's I'm not sure. As far as we know, you've got to register once if you're going to stay for longer than 90 days.
Yes.
That's Spanish law.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay then.
Yeah.
So they're having an argument on the saying who's correct. But that is Spanish law, Maria. That is the case. If you're going to stay, if your husband's going to stay for longer than 90 days, by Spanish law, you have to be registered. You have to start registering for residency. There's no extended holiday visa.
No.
So,
I was going to ask you about how's the Irish passport, because we have a lot of people obviously now interested in maybe being able to take advantage of their partner's Irish passport accessibility. So a lot of people have got access to an Irish passport, which would then give obviously UK nationals could ride off the back of their partner. How's that going?
Well, the system's very slow at the moment because there's nobody in the passport office. It's all people working remotely. So there are a few emergency passports getting through, but until the offices open, that might be after the 5th or 6th of May. I think that's when they're starting to release.
Okay.
But the coronavirus figures have started to go up again slightly. So there's they're unsure really. They'll know a bit closer to the time. In my case. Just talking about that, something that just popped into my head that was probably quite interesting to mention is, and it probably applied to a few people because we've had it a few times now and up and down Spain. It'd be interesting to see what other experiences people have got. Is that there's in some cases, British citizens who have access to an Irish passport who haven't got residency here, and we obviously passed the withdrawal agreement, have got NIE numbers. So they're registered with the immigration authorities, registered with the National Police, MIE number with a British passport. And they will now want to take residency as Irish citizens.
no, we came. It's not something that's ever been seen before, So it's only come to light the last couple of months, and we've done a few now. And we initially came up with some resistance from the police. They didn't really know what to do. They sat there and said, "Well, hang on a minute. He was British and now he's Irish. What we do?" And I'd be happy to send you this document. So eventually, we got a document from the consulate here in Malaga. We have the consulate in Fingarola. It's sort of a generic document that we took, which basically explains that the Irish passport holder is considered an Irish citizen. So that sort of got over, although a passport you'd suppose would do, but they always ask for a document from a consulate confirming that. So I'll send that so you can stick it on the link. And then a copy of the original passport, the British passport, will be out of date. And we're sort of getting around it like that. So we had one yesterday, actually, in Fingarola, where we went in with all the necessary stuff that they needed to register for residency, along with a copy of the old passport and this copy of a letter which is a generic letter from the consulate. So it can be done. So if anybody around Spain, maybe in Alicante or anywhere, is coming up some resistance in those circumstances, it can be done. So, you just got to make sure that you insist.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, Maria's talking again. She's saying again, don't want residency. We know he needs to register, but why would we take out insurance for a year to be here for more than 90 days? Registering for residency, but leaving after 180 days would then it stops, or would need to be done each year and isn't workable. That's a tricky situation. I mean, the situation is you're talking about going on holiday to Spain and not staying there for more than 90 days.
You can't. So you either, if you're on holiday, you stay 90 days, up to 90 days, and if you're EU citizen, then after those 90 days, you are supposed to register as resident. I'm sorry if you don't want to do that and stay longer, but that's just the law. And if you have to abide by Schengen rules, we have to abide by Schengen rules or start a residency application. It's basically like that. There's no sort of extended visa holiday applications, or anything like that. As we said, some EU citizens, some Brits have spent many years here without registering as residency and with residency, and because there've been no border controls, they're not particularly controlled. But in theory, they all should have registered after 90 days. So.
Mm-hmm. And there's likely to be more checks now after Brexit. I suspect people coming from the UK.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's UK citizens are getting their passports stamped, aren't they, on the way through? So they'll be checking the days and stuff like that. The EU, within the EU, I'd imagine it's exactly the same. So EU citizens are travelling. Once we get back to normality and borders are open, they'll be travelling in and out. And although they are supposed to register if they intend to spend more than 90 days, I imagine if they don't register, there won't be any checks. You won't be able to see when they came in and out of the country. Mm. So
any other connotations that you've come across of, you mentioned one before to me before we started up the broadcast about the, I can't remember what it was now. Was it
Hungarian, Canadian and American driving license?
Yeah.
So we've had quite a few. I mean, this isn't a new thing, EU citizens and having non-EU spouses, barriers. And there's quite a few agreements with Spain for things like driving licenses, for example. I know at the moment there isn't an agreement with the UK anymore, but we hope and expect there will be one at some point. But so we had a couple as a Hungarian, Canadian, and I think had a Moroccan driving license, and we managed to do it all within Spain. So there's each case is completely different, but you'd be surprised sometimes when you look into them about the things you can actually do here in the agreements which are in place. Mm-hmm. So it's and they followed the right structure. She got her residency first. They had the savings in the bank. They went to immigration. It took 6 weeks for his approval to come through, and he's just been and done his fingerprints. Evidently, the non-EU citizen gets a TIE card, and the EU citizen gets one of those little green cards without your photo on it.
Okay. Liz had a question. If I supplied a letter to say I'm in the process of becoming an EU citizen, would we be able to come to Spain under EU rules? Long shot, but she thought she'd ask.
No, I don't think so. No. No,
Yeah.
they're only definite with definite. We have the same. Just going back to we have a lot of people asking about people who aren't married but have obviously been together for an awful long time.
Hmm.
You know, it's really hard to push those applications like common law partners, for example.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. It's not impossible, but it might as well be. You know, it's the marriage certificate is the key for those kind of applications. It is hard.
Hmm.
So they definitely look at documents and status when they're making their decision.
Okay, okay. Let's see. I had questions that were relevant to me, but maybe slightly less relevant to other people. Um, I've heard of this one. If you arrive in the second half of the year, would you pay tax in your previous country for that year, or do you basically wait to become tax resident until the next January the 1st if you arrive in the second half of the year?
Oh, that's a good question. Now I have to be a bit careful what I say about tax because we're not tax advisors. But yeah, you know, to be a fiscal resident in Spain, you have to spend more than 183 days here. So, and the fiscal year in Spain is between the 1st of January to the 31st of December. So if you spend less than 183 days in that period in Spain, then you could suppose that you're not going to be a fiscal resident here. But I'll tell you what we need to do: try and get a tax man on, don't we? That would be a good one for the channel.
Yeah, yeah.
I will do.
Yeah.
I have somebody in mind, so that might be a good idea to do that.
Okay, good. We'll
And then
arrange
they
that.
can answer your questions regarding tax a lot better than I could.
Brilliant. Yes, because I have quite a few. I'm going to have to meet your accountant at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, another question. We're going to be Autonomo. I don't know whether we're going to be Autonomo. Yeah, I don't know whether it's just going to be one of us being Autonomo or both of us separately. But so let's say I register my business as Autonomo as an EU resident.
Yeah.
I have healthcare. Is Liz covered on the back of that?
Yeah, so that's extended to Liz because you're married. Okay, so that's good. So the process would be that you would get your I don't think you haven't got an NIE certificate yet, have you?
No.
Yeah, so we have to get you an NIE certificate to get you that tax number to register as Autonomo. You can use that along with various other documents to register your residency, and then we would register Liz off the back of that. She would be covered by your healthcare, and we get a certificate which proves that you've got access to public healthcare. And then Liz, if she gets her residency and decides that she needs to be Autonomo as well, depending on the business structure, because you can't employ Liz as an Autonomo. You can't employ a spouse. She would have to be her own Autonomo. Then once she's got her residency, she has the right to work and register as Autonomo, but she doesn't until she has that approved.
Okay. Does she need to wait?
When you immediately land.
Do you need to wait for my paperwork to come through, my kind of certificate of that to come through before she can apply?
Yeah.
It's
pretty instant. It's not. It doesn't take long. Autonomo registrations can be a week.
Okay.
So yeah, that's not as good.
Then. Well, we're coming up to 10 o'clock. Are there anything else we should say before we say goodbye to you?
No, I think that's about it. Obviously, if anybody's got any questions, then just put them in the chat because such a varied subject, and as I say, we're coming across various connotations now of different ways that people can get residency. But yeah, I mean, maybe what we could do then at some point in the future is actually do a separate video on EU residency and the requirements here in Spain, because obviously there's going to be a few people who are going to be riding off the back of those people's status.
Brilliant. So there's no more questions. Apart from, Liz has just asked the questions. Can you do joint Autonomo? I think you answered that one. You've got to be separate, haven't you?
To be separate.
Yeah. Final one from Maria. For Irish/German, etc. registration after 90 days, how do you comply with the law without taking out unnecessary 1-year health insurance? Oh, so you've got a phone call there. Did you hear that one, Chris? Oh, you froze there for a minute. Did you get that question?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Yeah, for Irish/German, etc. registration after 90 days, how do you comply with the law without taking out unnecessary 1-year health insurance? I'm not sure.
We don't. I'm going to be honest with you here.
Sorry about that.
Sorry,
Chris has got
sorry about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you here. We deal with people who are complying with the law and want to register in Spain, not anything else. There isn't any go around. It is what it is. If you want to stay in Spain for more than 90 days, you have to get residency, which means you have to take a healthcare policy.
Yeah. Okay. So and that is necessary. Yeah. Okay then. Well, you've got to go and take your son for golf. Are you even golfing today? It looks like it was raining out there before.
It's there. Well, I won't be, but they'll be doing a theory lesson today. So there's no escape, so there's no excuses. If they probably will be out. It's a bit rainy. They're actually quite hardcore like that. The guy who runs it, who's a professional golfer, very nice guy, says, well, if you ever get to go and play in a rainy country, then you're going to have to learn how to play in the rain. So just chucks them out.
Yeah. They play on the links in Ireland. Of course, links is a golf course next to water, isn't it? Next to the sea.
Yeah.
And we've got two on headlands jutting out, and they play in the wind and the rain and the gales. They're the real hardy ones. There's people fly over from America, especially to play on the west coast of Ireland for these courses. Yeah. They're mad.
No, but it's good. It's a good thing. They can't always be playing in the sun. You can imagine that they get that good, and then they go over to Ireland, and it's a wintry day, and they've got a tournament, and they've never played in the rain before. They'd have had it, wouldn't they? So.
Yeah, true. So
anyway, I'm going to have to shoot. Well, thank you very much for having me on the show again.
Yeah, thanks for your time. We'll let you go, and then I'll plug your website in a moment when you've gone.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Let me just swap round before we do that, and there we go. Bye for now, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's brilliant. If you need to get in touch with Chris directly, that's www.upsticks.es. You can arrange a phone call to assess your case, and that's for free. He'll do a call back on that. And any more questions, please put them in the comments below rather than in the chat, because the chat will disappear after the show. And next week on YouTooSpain, we have a mystery at the moment. I haven't confirmed, but I think I'm going to be speaking to an estate agent. So any questions you've got about buying a house or renting a property over in Spain and that process, then send us some questions on the Facebook groups, or put them in the comments below any of our videos, and we will get answers for you next week. Don't forget also to check out the Liz and Skatz channel, which is something we broadcast usually live every Wednesday evening. We talk about health and weight loss and our journey to go to Spain. There's also YouTube Yoga, which is Liz's own channel, where you can have free yoga and meditation classes. Also YouTube Aromatherapy, which Liz has started broadcasting live and has some videos on. And of course, check out Chris's YouTube channel. That's called Upsticks. He's got that as well as his website. And some or all of these links can be found in the description below this video. So that's all for this week. Thank you for taking part in the chat. It was a lively one today, and lots of complications between the understanding of Schengen rules and the law in Spain. So thank you for joining in. I hope that was clear at the end of it. That's all for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please click on the like button if you haven't done so already, and I will see you very soon, and we'll have our little tune to wave goodbye on. Bye for now.